Fixed versus a technical stop. Now, there are going to be many types of stops, and in this lesson we'll cover those that are relevant to the indicator trading. And a small reminder that you cannot trade without a stop. Our stop is our limit of risk. And if we do not use a stop, then we have no risk management. So a stop is mandatory. And those who trade without a stop, they are too risky and they will lose a lot of money eventually. Now, as I've said, in this lesson we'll talk about the stops that are relevant to the indicator trading. Now, there are many other types of stops and a lot more details in terms of stops, but those we will cover in later chapters, and specifically in chapter 9. So what is a fixed stop? A fixed stop is a stop that is the same always. So if we choose to trade one specific market and we want to use just a fixed stop, then we calculate it, and I'll show you how to calculate it in regards to the specific market that you're trading. And we're gonna have only one specific stop, the size of the stop, of course. And fixed stops are great because they are very easy to record in our statistics. In chapter 12, I'll be teaching you how to use statistics correctly and why statistics are extremely important. And you'll see that when you have a fixed stop, so the risk, the amount of risk per trade stays always the same, and it's easy to have correct and understandable statistics. Now, there are a few rules for the fixed stops, depending on the market that you are trading. For Forex, for example, the maximum stop that you should be using is 15 to 25 points. Now, as for the American market, stocks, for example, the most risk that you can bear per trade should not exceed 7 to 10 cents. That's more for stocks. And as for the indices, such as the Dow Jones indices, the HS50, the Hong Kong indices, the DAX, the German indices, and any other indices that mostly will be trading CFDs and futures on the indices, the maximum, the absolute maximum stop should not exceed 0.2% of the point value of the market. A great example would be the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones currently is at 28,000 points. That means that 0.2% from its point value, the maximum stop is 56 points. But with Dow Jones, quite honestly, myself, I use an even smaller stop than 0.2%. 56 points is quite painful. If you have, for example, 2 or 3 losing trades in a row, 150 points, that can be very, very expensive. So with the markets that have so many points, the point value, I prefer to use 0.1 rule. So with Dow Jones, I would recommend using a stop which is not more than 30 points. This is a little bit more than 0.1%, but it's plus minus a few points here and there, does not matter. So for Dow Jones, 0.1% or 30 points. Now for the DAX, for example, that I mostly trade, I use the 0.2% rule. And at this point, DAX is around 13,000 something, 13,240 or whatnot. Therefore, the maximum stop amount should not exceed 26.4 points. But me personally, I trade with a maximum of 20 point stop, not more. So it's a little bit less than 0.2%. Now let's take the S&P 500. Currently it's at 3,100, I believe. And this means that the stop is around 6.2 or so points. However, when I trade S&P 500, I like to round it up to 5. So a little bit beyond 0.2% rule. So those are the fixed stops. Now let's talk about the technical ones. Let me show you an example. So here we have a DAX market, the indices. So as you can see, the market is currently at 13,243. So that means around 26 points is the maximum stop. However, as I said, I use the maximum of 20 points, a little bit below 0.2% rule. So now this is our favorite divergency that we used as an example in quite a few lessons. Let's take it once again. So let's say we believe in this divergency and we enter around the beginning of this candle, whatever. Now, the beginning of this candle is at 13,221. Now, this means that our fixed stop, the maximum fixed stop, would be 26 points below. But let's take the 20 points that I use mostly, and I recommend using for you as well, the 20 points for the DAX. Now, this means that our stop would be at 13,201. This would be our stop for this trade right here if we were to enter into climbing prices, believing the divergency. Now, as you can see that this fixed stop is quite far away from our previous bottom peak right here. And if you remember, then we can use these bottoms and tops of waves to actually identify potential trend weaknesses, and we could see if the market continues going down. So if the downtrend continues and we break the level of the previous bottom peak, that means that we probably should leave our trade. However, the fixed stop would be here, so it would still be about 7 points lower than the previous peak. And this is where the technical stop comes in. So the technical stop would be here, precisely at the previous bottom peak, the one that we would use if we would analyze the market price movements by using the bottoms and tops comparison concept. And as you can see, in this way, if we use the technical stop, we would save ourselves about 6 to 7 points. When trading is concerned, 6 to 7 points is quite a huge difference in terms of money and statistics and so on and so on. So I always recommend, and you can write this down with huge letters, that when a technical stop is smaller than the fixed stop, always use the technical stop. And here in this example, you see quite clearly why this technical stop is a lot more rational. So we can remove the fixed stop and stick with the technical one. Remember that in the market and as traders, we must minimize our risk and minimize our exposure to losses. And the best way to do that is to use the smallest stops possible. So when you have the smallest possible stop, that also means that you have the smallest possible risk for each trade. Now, as I've said before, when you're using fixed stops, it's quite nice for your statistics and for the money management later, when you'll be learning how to actually record the statistics and how to keep track of statistics and how will that impact your system and so on and so forth. However, in the real world, I would prefer you to use technical stops when possible. Now, there are certain situations when the technical stop would actually be even further away than the fixed stop. And that, of course, in this kind of situation, then we would, of course, use the fixed stop only. Our fixed stop is the absolute maximum that we can allow ourselves to risk per trade. Don't forget about the test. Enjoy your homework, and I'll see you in the next lesson.